Now, what is golden, my guys? So right now, I'm outside. I just got done meditating, and I'm drinking some fine-ass tea, some joint tea. And what do I want to talk about right now is I want to talk about this book called Anastasia. I'm reading it again for a second time. It's a whole series, basically. And this book, Anastasia, it's the English version of what it's called. It's written by a Russian cat named Vladimir Megre, and it's supposed to be nonfiction, right? So it's real. That's what it said, right? Well, anyways, this book right here was given to me by somebody very special, and it really propelled my spiritual journey a lot, actually. And it's basically about this guy, this businessman in the 90s who ends up in the tundra, because he's from Russia, so he ends up in the tundra forest in Russia. He's trying to do some business and shit like that, and basically he stumbles upon this old guy talking to him about cedar tree and the magical properties of a cedar tree, like a real cedar tree, like they're hard to come by. But the magical power of the cedar tree and stuff, and trying to convince him. So then he kind of goes on this crusade, but then he ends up meeting the granddaughter. It's actually two older guys. One is a grandpa and a great-grandpa of this girl that he meets named Anastasia. And she's basically this, you call her recluse in the woods and stuff, but she basically was born in that area in the tundra and was never really into our technocratic civilization. And she was raised in the tundra of Russia, basically. Now you're probably wondering, how is that possible? Like, how was she able to just live in the forest? So she didn't have any of the technology that we have, and she basically lives on the land, like she's harmonious with the land. And basically it goes into explain, and she talks about it. So I was very skeptic when I first read this book the first time, but then after, I first read this book 1.5 years ago, and in the last 1.5 years I've gone through a lot. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences, and I've learned a lot. And there's a difference between learning and then like experiencing shit, you know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to spiritual experiences, because really, obviously at the end of the day there is only one truth, but you got to figure that out as you go, and you got to figure out what's right to you. And this book resonated with me more and more, and opened me up to the possibilities that there's more going on out there and stuff, and it really opened me up a lot in that sense. And she talks about basically how she's, that we've lost touch with our identity as man, as she uses the word man in the terms of just like, human race and shit. And we've lost our identity, and we are not, we think we need all these things from the outside, basically, but all we have is in here. And she basically goes on in the book, she this powerful visualization. She talks about how we really need to get more in touch with the plants and shit like that, and how the plants are a lot more powerful than we think, and then they actually can heal us and nurture us if we plant them in a certain type of way. She talks about like raising kids. She talks about technocratic societies and stuff like that, and how we got to find more of our our inner us in that type of stuff, and that we're way more powerful than we think we are. And then she goes in, she does, like, she's like super strong, but she's just beautiful. She doesn't look unnatural or anything like that. She doesn't look abnormally like, but she looks just kind of like, a slim woman and stuff like that from what is being described. But she's like stronger abnormally than most humans. She can recite basically any language. Basically, she can tap into the infinite intelligence of the universe. Basically, and she can visualize herself and actually speak to people even if they don't realize it. Like, she can touch them feeling wise, you know what I'm saying? And obviously a lot of this shit kind of passed my head. I'm like, I'm trying to believe it. I can kind of believe it when I'm first reading it, but over time, though, those seeds got synced in. I started experiencing more things and learning more things. I'm like, oh my God, of course this is possible. If you believe in law of attraction, if you know about how energy is everything and everywhere, and we are all energy, and actually our physical bodies, they're real, but behind the surface, there's nothingness. There's nothingness. This is actually a bunch of trillions of cells coming together to create one human body. Whatever's keeping all these cells together, now that's an infinite intelligence. And so if you believe in these type of stuff and you've got experience with this type of stuff, then this stuff will start to make even more and more and more sense, how she's able to connect, like our subconscious minds are able to connect to the infinite intelligence of the world. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you go into the subconscious real quick, basically, but if you have any beliefs, right, like let's say you have a belief that you're a fucking winner, you know, money comes to you easily, and you see that, so you keep seeing that and you keep experiencing that, and then your belief is actually attracting you subconsciously without you even thinking about it. You're going to places and doing things that are allowing you to acquire more money and shit like that and have a happy life because you have this inner belief in you. You know what I'm saying? So that's you, but you can tap into it. Basically, what is being said is you can tap into it at will if you want to, and you can do that anyways. If you know, there's plenty of videos. Everybody is talking about law of attraction, all this shit now. But this goes a lot deeper than law of attraction. But she basically talks about that and how you can tap into the universe, the qualities. She talks about cedar trees and how they're actually very healing properties. It's just like all this type of shit in here that I can't. It's difficult to just explain in one little video, but I highly recommend the book Anastasia by Vladimir Megre. It's going to really change your perspective on how you see things and you see plants and you see animals and shit like that. It really spurred on more of my spiritual journey and gave me a lot of insight. That's why I'm reading it again, actually, because I have more experience and knowledge that I didn't have before. So now a lot of this shit is making more sense to me in a different way. This is actually a series too. So apparently the guy, he interviewed her, and then they actually have a kid. I don't want to spoil it too much, but he ends up fucking her, yeah, but not in that way, technically. The way they even go about it, too, they talk about creation and shit, and they talk about sex, and, like, she talks about how this is obvious, how we over-sexualize sex, you know, does that make sense? We over-sexualize everything, basically, and then we make sex this taboo thing, which automatically makes us want to have more sex. Actually, it's weird how the system works, right? But at the same time, it's like she talks about how to have pure sex, like pure, just the best sex ever, because he had like the best sex ever with her, but it was because they were both coming from a place of wanting to create, you know, and she basically talks about like, you know, we're too attached to the flesh, you know what I mean? And once you can let go of that type of stuff, you realize that the fulfillment you don't need to fucking do all these type of stuff. And like Vladimir is actually having like a breakdown because he's like, what are you talking about? You're going to take away these pleasures away from me, the pleasures of sex, the pleasures of smoking and drinking? And she's like, bro, like, basically she's like, bro, once you get to this level, you're not even going to care about that shit. You think that you will, but you're not going to. It's going to make a lot more sense. And so, because basically they had sex and he felt like she tricked him basically to have sex with him and stuff like that. And he was like, that was the best. What was that feeling I had? It was amazing. It was blah, 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 and shit like that. And they have a kid together. So you have to read this book and see for yourself whether you believe it's true or not. But a lot of the shit that's in there, once you start learning more shit, you'll be like, wait a second, this was said in this book, and oh, I'm learning this and this, and I'm experiencing this and this, and then it starts to make a lot of sense. But it's very, like, you know, you can still be skeptical, like, did this guy really have a baby with this guy in the jungle? Like, I get it, you know what I'm saying? And I'm still kind of figuring out if that's the case or not. But I don't know. What I do know is that this book resonates with me on another level. And a lot of the shit that's said in here makes a lot of sense to me. It makes a lot of truth to me. So if you are on your spiritual journey, I definitely recommend Anastasia. That's the English title. They have it translated in all different fucking languages and shit like that. But yeah, this guy used to be like this legit businessman. Like, there's pictures and shit up in here. Ain't no pictures of Anastasia though, but I mean there's drawing pictures, but there's pictures of him and shit in here. And this guy used to be like a legit ass businessman and shit, you know, fucking hoes and all that type of shit. And then his whole life changed. I mean, you can look him up on YouTube and stuff. He's like the spiritual ass motherfucker, but he's not like one of those like spiritual guru guys. Like, he's just kind of doing an interview and talking about shit, you know. So yeah, I was gonna make a video on affirmations, but I was reading this and I was like, I'm gonna talk about this. But Anastasia, great book. I suggest anybody who's on a spiritual journey to pick it up. Order it online. You probably get it for about $15 motherfucking dollars. Yeah, $15.95, but probably get it cheaper. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a great day, great time, wherever you at. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Peace out.